All right. We are live, Cigar and a Beverage, broadcasting tonight from the broadcast booth at the palatial estate and the chateau. I shouldn't call it a chateau. That's what Tim Brando calls his place. But again, this is the broadcast booth for another edition of Cigar and a Beverage, and we are live. And we are talking Sweet 16 tonight. No cigar for me tonight, but I do have my beverage, nice little bourbon and ginger ale here to wet my whistle. And we are talking Sweet 16. The NCAA men's basketball tournament got underway last weekend and had a lot of upsets, a lot of interesting action taking place throughout the weekend, and it has now led us to this. Saturday, the games begin in the Sweet 16 schedule, a little different than it has been in past years. Saturday and Sunday, the Sweet 16. Elite 8 will take place Monday and Tuesday, and then the Final Four the following weekend. But we're going to get right into it with the first game out in the West Regional. Now, all games obviously being played in the bubble of the state of Indiana. And we're going to start with the first game in the West Region. And that is going to be on... We're focusing on the West Region is what I'm getting at. March 28th, 1:10 p.m. tip-off at the Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Gonzaga and Creighton. The number one seed Gonzaga Bulldogs. Number one in the country all year. Undefeated. Going up against the number 5 seed Creighton Blue Jays. This is going to be an interesting matchup, but nobody has been able to beat Gonzaga all year. I looked at Gonzaga's schedule just prior to coming on the air, and I'm looking at this, and you're thinking to yourself, they're not playing anybody in the West Coast Conference. They're really not. But you look at their preseason or their non-conference schedule. They beat Kansas by 12. They beat Auburn by, 23. They beat West Virginia by 5. They beat Iowa by 11. They beat Virginia by 23. And those are the big names. Those are the big names. And they beat them with ease. 28-0. Number one in the country. And they get Creighton in the Sweet 16. I am predicting Gonzaga will move on onto the Elite 8. They will face the winner of USC Oregon. Very intriguing matchup here. 2 Pac-12 teams going at it in the Sweet 16 out in the West Region. That game is slated for 8:45 Central Time. That one will be played at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, also in Indianapolis. The Oregon Ducks got past the first round by way of a no contest. They automatically advanced because Virginia Commonwealth contracted COVID. They had COVID issues. So Oregon moved on without having to play the first round game. They played the second round game. They played against Iowa. They beat Luca Garza in Iowa by 15. And now they go on to play the Trojans. Now, USC is coming off of a throttling. They beat the high holy heck out of Kansas by 34 points, 85-51, back in the second round. And so now we get the matchup of 2 Pac-12 teams. Now, here's the deal on this one. I looked at the matchup, and very intriguing. They're even in overall field goal percentage. Oregon shoots the 3 a little bit better than SC does. A lot better than SC does. Oregon is tied for 16th in the country, shooting the 3 ball at 38.2% during the course of the season, while USC averages 35.6% from 3. But I don't think that's where the game is going to be won. I just don't think that's where the game's going to be won. The game is going to be won on the glass. USC, on average, out-rebounds Oregon by 6 rebounds. And they out-rebound Oregon on the offensive glass by 2. And I think that if USC could create themselves extra possessions, which obviously that looks like they did against Kansas. Let's see. Yeah, they out-rebounded Kansas by 12. SC got out-rebounded on the offensive glass by 2, but in overall total rebounds, they out-rebounded Kansas 38-26. If SC can find a way to out-rebound their opponent and shoot very well, which they shot 57%. They shot 57% overall from the field against Kansas. They shot 61% from 3. If they have those types of numbers, they're going to beat Oregon. And I think that's where we're headed. SC's tournament history up to this point, their first round game against Drake, they won by 16. They played Kansas, won by 34. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout against Oregon, because when these two teams, when these two teams played earlier in the year, SC did win by 14. They only played once, it looks like. They only played once during the course of the season, and they won by 14. In that game, SC shot the ball 50%. They shot it 48% from 3. They out-rebounded Oregon by 10, and they had an advantage on the offensive boards 13-9. Okay? The game is going to be won on the glass. And I'm picking USC to win. I'm picking USC to beat Oregon. We go to the East region. And in the East region, we're going to have, on March the 28th, the number 1 seed Michigan Wolverines out of the East taking on the number 4 seed Florida State Seminoles. Now, looking at the matchup, Michigan shoots the 3 ball 48.5%. That's 19th in the country. Going up against a Florida State team that is not bad shooting percentage from 3 either. Shooting the ball at 47.8%. I'm sorry, that's the overall field goal percentage. Overall field goal percentage. From the 3-point area, they are both shooting it right at around 38%. Two very decent, I would say very good 3-point shooting teams. Okay? Again, this is a case where it's so even when you really want to think about it with the intangibles that it's hard to pick a winner in this one. But we're looking at the statistics here in the matchup, where it could come down to is at the free throw line. Michigan is 4 percentage points better at the foul line than Florida State. Okay, that's a big discrepancy. Michigan is a top 20 team shooting the free throws. Okay? And that could be the determining factor in this basketball game. But Michigan's been playing very, very good defense throughout so far in this tournament. They played Texas Southern, won by 16. They went up against a really good LSU team on Monday night. And LSU was up by as many as 9 in that basketball game the other night. They were shooting the ball well. They were basically, having their way with Michigan early. But Michigan kept chipping away, and finally they figured it out in the second half. With 10 minutes to go in the second half, Michigan just started pulling away, and LSU just could not figure out how to beat that Michigan defense. Cam Thomas went cold. Javonte Smart was missing easy shots. It was a tough second half. It was a very tough second half for LSU to have to contend with that Michigan defense. And I think that's where this basketball game is going to be determined, on the defensive side. With Michigan playing good defense against a good LSU team, it's a very good possibility that they'll be ready defensively for Florida State. Florida State does average about 69 points a game, and they're going to look to dictate the pace. Florida State beat UNC Greensboro by 10, and then they played up against Colorado and beat Colorado by 18. Colorado, was a very good team coming out of the Pac-12. Played in the Pac-12 championship game against Oregon State, who's another Sweet 16 team that we'll preview here in a little bit. You know, Florida State has an opportunity here to not really shock the world because they are a good basketball team. The spread is only 2.5 as of right now. It's only a 2.5 point spread, with Michigan being the slight favorite. This game is going to take place at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. If you want to take a look at true shooting percentage, Michigan shoots the ball 59.2%. That's tied for 14th in the country. Florida State, 58.2%, tied for 30th in the country. Michigan does not really turn the ball over a whole lot. They only turn the ball over an average of 11 times during the course of the game. Yeah, you might think to yourself, 11 times, it's still too many. But they're one of the better teams in the country, probably top 50 teams in America that in turning the ball over. They're one of the top. How do I reword this? They're one of the top 50 teams in the country in taking care of the basketball, and that's what what this game is gonna come down to. Florida State turns the ball over 14.5 points a game, 14.5 times a game. That's 265th. There's around 320, 330 Division I men's basketball teams. And out of the 330, they are 265th in the country in terms of turning the ball over 14.5 times. I'm taking Michigan. Just based on the way they play defense against LSU, based on how well they shot the ball in the second half. They're averaging, 86 and 82, 168. They're averaging 84 points a game in the two games that they've played so far in this tournament. Florida State is averaging 135. You're looking at what? 67? 67? Well, Michigan's 17 points better than Florida State. Florida State's going to try to dictate the pace. If Florida State can dictate the pace of this basketball game, Florida State's got a good opportunity of winning, but I just don't see that happening. I think Michigan plays very good defense. I think Michigan can dictate the pace in this basketball game. They shoot the ball well. I'm taking Michigan over Florida State. You're going to want to hear my predictions for later on because we are going to go into predicting the Elite Eight here. Michigan will face, if Michigan gets past Florida State, they will face the winner of UCLA, Alabama. UCLA was in the first four. They beat Michigan State 86-80 to get in to the field of 64. Their prize for getting into the field of 64, they had to play Texas. I'm sorry, they had to play BYU. I apologize. They had to play BYU. And they beat BYU by 11. Okay, so UCLA gets past BYU. Now they got to play Abilene Christian, who upset Texas. Now Abilene Christian, riding momentum into the second round, have an opportunity to again shock the world playing UCLA, but UCLA won by 20. Alabama, and by the way, this game tips off at 6:15 on March the 28th. It's on Sunday. Alabama is 10 points better than UCLA on season averages. 10 points better than UCLA. UCLA shoots the ball a little bit better than Alabama does. Bama makes 10 three-pointers a game. UCLA makes 6. But Bama's shoot percentage is tied for 97th from 3. UCLA is a 37.4% three-point shooting team. At the foul line, Bama's shooting 71.9%, UCLA shooting 71.1%. Bama, on average, out-rebounds UCLA by 4 and attacks the offensive glass a little bit better. Okay? That's where we're at. And I think is the better basketball team in this respect. UCLA doesn't turn the ball over. You know, I talked about earlier how Michigan doesn't turn the ball over very much. Neither does UCLA. But Alabama has 8.6 steals per game. That's 16th in the country. Alabama's going to try to turn you over. But you have to try to turn Alabama over. Alabama turns the ball over 13.9 times a game, right at around 14 times a game. That's tied for 217th in the country. UCLA tied for 19th. They don't turn the ball over. They're a top 20 team in terms of taking care of the basketball. That's an important stat, especially when you get into the tournament. Especially when you play in the tournament. If you can take care of the basketball, not turn the ball over, shoot your free throws well, and have a decent field goal shooting percentage, you're going to win basketball games in the tournament. You're going to go far. That's one of the reasons why UCLA is where they are at. I still think Alabama's the better team, though. Alabama's the Southeastern Conference champion for a reason. And they are where they are because they are a well-coached basketball team. And they are where they are because they are a very good basketball team. I like Alabama here. Bama, now look, am I going to be surprised if UCLA pulls off another upset? No, UCLA has played well enough to get where they are, and they are playing well enough to possibly shock the world again. And if they do it against Alabama, then I don't know. You know, I just don't know. I'm taking Alabama. I'm taking the Crimson Tide here. All right, we go to the South region. Baylor in the South. Baylor taking on Villanova. A very good matchup here. This game is going to be played on Saturday, 4:15 tip from Hinkle Fieldhouse. Let's get right down to it. Baylor's a 48.8% field goal shooting team. They are a 41.5% three-point shooting team. That's tops in America. They don't shoot the free throws particularly well, but they out-rebound you, especially on the offensive glass, in comparison to Villanova. They create turnovers. But if you want to talk about a team that doesn't turn the ball over and takes care of the basketball, it's Villanova. If Villanova has any opportunity to win this basketball game, which right now they are a 7-point underdog, they're a touchdown underdog to Baylor. If Villanova wants to win this basketball game, they will need to take care of the basketball. They only turn the ball over 8.8 times a game. That's tops in the country. Tops in the country. But Baylor is big. Baylor plays good defense. Baylor shoots the ball well. They have a 94.2 defensive rating, and their offensive rating is 120. I like Baylor's chances here, and I think Baylor gets past Villanova. I don't think it's going to be a double-digit type ball game, but I think Baylor gets past Villanova. $75-72 in overtime, and here's why. Ohio State couldn't make free throws. Ohio State shot 50% from the foul line. Oral Roberts, 78%. Here's another thing. Oral Roberts went 11 of 35 from 3. That's 31%. They did not shoot the ball particularly well against Ohio State in this ball game. But again, they forced turnovers. Ohio State turned the ball over 16 times in that first round game against Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts only turned the ball over 6 times. They take care of the basketball. Arkansas is going to try to mess you up. Arkansas is going to try to turn you over. Arkansas is going to try to do everything they can defensively to disrupt your offensive rhythm. And right now, Arkansas is an 11.5 point favorite, over under 159.5. But if Oral Roberts is going to beat Arkansas, they're going to need to do it on the offensive end, and they're going to need to do it efficiently. Oral Roberts put up 81 points against Florida. They put up 75 against Ohio State. It's a 156. That's 78 points a game in their 2 tournament games. 78 points a game. Or that's 10 points better than Arkansas. That's 10 points better than Arkansas. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens in this basketball game. I like Arkansas here. I like Arkansas in this basketball game. I think they will do their best to play better defense. Arkansas has only given up, let's see, 66 and 68. That's 134. 67 points a game. They're only giving up 67 points a game. I mentioned a little bit earlier that Arkansas is 10 points less than Oral Roberts. That's not true. 85 and 68. That's 173 or 153 rather. Do some quick math here. 76.5. That's, it'll be close. I think Arkansas, that'll be close. But I like Arkansas in this one. I think they'll play better defense. I think they'll play really good defense. And there's enough tape on Oral Roberts to game plan a little bit more effectively than Florida and Ohio State did. I like Arkansas. All right, we go to the Midwest. Loyola Chicago taking on Oregon State, and I think this is where Oregon State, their road to the Final Four ends here. Oregon State won the Pac-12 won the Pac-12 tournament just to get into the NCAA tournament. And they've been playing good basketball. Upset Tennessee, upset Oklahoma State, but Loyola Chicago is playing probably the best basketball of any team in the tournament right now. Loyola Chicago beats Georgia Tech in that 8-9 matchup. Then Loyola Chicago takes out the number 1 seed Illinois Fighting Illini. The Fighting Illini was one of those teams that a lot of media members out there and a lot of amateur bracketologists felt that Illinois was going to be a Final Four team, and some brackets probably even had Illinois winning the whole thing. Illinois was playing very good basketball coming into the tournament. Illinois was the Big Ten tournament champions, and Loyola Chicago made it look easy against Illinois. Gave Illinois fits, won by 13. Loyola Chicago, I think, is a team to watch. And I think they get past Oregon State here. And this is going to be I think it's going to be a great basketball game to watch, but I think Loyola Chicago gets past Oregon State. And one of the most entertaining teams to watch in this tournament right now is Syracuse. Syracuse playing a 2-3 zone. They change up the 2-3 zone, and you get into the tournament, and you start playing teams that are not used to playing against a 2-3 zone like Syracuse plays, and you're going to run into problems with the orange. And that's part of the reason why right here my logo tonight has the Syracuse colors right there. And that's because I like the way Syracuse is playing on the defensive side of the ball. They beat San Diego State pretty handily, and they fought back in the second half against a very good West Virginia team in Bob Huggins, and mainly the main reason why they were able to beat West Virginia is because of the shooting of Buddy Bay, averaging somewhere around 27 to 28 points a ball game here in the two tournament games that they've played against San Diego State and West Virginia. But Syracuse will like to dictate the pace, especially on the defensive side, and I think that's something that they might be able to do. They're playing Houston, who beat Cleveland State by 31. Then they played against Rutgers and won by just 3. Rutgers gave them some issues, and I think Syracuse is a better team than Rutgers. No disrespect to Rutgers, who were in the tournament for the first time since 1990. Okay. Rutgers getting past Clemson. Second round matchup against Houston. Houston takes care of Rutgers. Now we're down to Houston and Syracuse, and I think Syracuse wins this thing. Wins this game. I'm not saying strictly the tournament. I'm thinking this ball game. Buddy Boeheim is going to be a factor. Now, Houston wins this ball game if they can limit the shooting of Buddy Boeheim. And the story there is remarkable. Hinkle Fieldhouse, the setting for this one, and that tip is scheduled for 8:55 p.m. Central Time against the Cougars of Houston. So really my only upset in the Sweet 16 would be Syracuse over Houston. I like the way they're playing defense. And when you get into the tournament, another factor when you get into the tournament is playing good defense. And there's not a team out there right now that's playing as good of defense than Syracuse. Syracuse and Jim Boeheim pride themselves into that 2-3 zone, and they force teams to do things that they're not comfortable doing. And it's been like that for a long time. And Syracuse also makes their free throws. 78.3% from the foul line. You want to talk about a difference in close basketball games? It's at the charity stripe, and you have to convert your free throws. That's just it. That's just the way it is. All right, so now those are my predictions. So my predictions are Gonzaga over Creighton, USC over Oregon, Michigan over Florida State. I'm taking Alabama over UCLA, Baylor over Villanova. I'm taking Arkansas over Oral Roberts, Loyola Chicago over Oregon State, and I am taking Syracuse to beat Houston, the only double-digit seed to advance to the Elite Eight. Now, in the Elite Eight, you're looking at in the West, Gonzaga, USC. I like Gonzaga in that matchup. USC's good. No disrespect to USC, but I think Gonzaga is that much better. I like the Zags over SC. I'm actually going to pick Alabama over Michigan just because I like the way Alabama played in SEC play. And they played tough games. They played a tough game against LSU in the SEC championship game. And they're playing probably the best team ball in the tournament in my opinion, other than maybe Gonzaga. But I like Alabama over Michigan. I'm going to take Baylor over Arkansas just because I think Baylor's just a hot team. Baylor's shooting the ball well. They're playing good defense. Their ball movement is great. Arkansas is getting hot at the right time, but I think Baylor's going to be a little too much for Arkansas. And I think Loyola Chicago and the way they're playing, Porter Moser, their head coach, has figured out how to win big games, especially in the tournament. Loyola got to the Final Four 2 years ago. I think they make another run to the Final Four here. I think this is where they're going to give Syracuse fits, and I think Loyola Chicago gets past Syracuse. So my Final Four would be Gonzaga, Alabama, Baylor, and Loyola. I think Baylor beats Loyola because Baylor is just playing that darn good. And Gonzaga, I think, will get past Alabama. Now, that one's going to be intriguing to watch. I think Bama's run ends there in the national semifinal against Gonzaga. Gonzaga is just too good. Gonzaga is just too good. Now, Gonzaga's going to have to earn it. They're going to have to earn it. And then my prediction there, Baylor and Gonzaga, which would probably be the best possible matchup with the remaining teams left in this tournament. And I think I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think Baylor beats Gonzaga. I think Baylor is the best team in the country. Baylor was number one at one point. They had a couple losses. They had some COVID issues during Big 12 play. But I still think Baylor is that darn good. Baylor won the Big 12 regular season for a reason. You know. And, at 24-2, they lost to Kansas. And they lost to Oklahoma State. They lost to Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament final. Okay, Oklahoma State was a deserving team to win that. Cunningham is a great player for Oklahoma State, and they got upset by Oregon State. All right, but Baylor lost to Kansas. But look at this. Okay, Baylor beat Illinois, who is a number one seed during the course of the season, and then once they got into Big 12 play, they beat Iowa State by 11. They beat Oklahoma by 15. They beat TCU by 18. They struggled a little bit with Texas Tech, still won by 8. They beat Kansas on Monday, January the 18th. They beat Kansas by 8. They beat Oklahoma State by 15. They beat Kansas State 107-59. They played Auburn in that Big 12 SEC Challenge. They beat Auburn by 12. They came back. They played Texas, won by 14. They played Iowa State again, won by 5. They lost to Kansas on February the 27th, but then they come back and they beat West Virginia by 5. They beat Oklahoma State by 11. They beat Texas Tech by 15. They get into the Big 12 tournament. They earned a double bye. They beat Kansas State by 6. They lost to Oklahoma State, but then they get into the tournament. They get into the NCAA tournament. They beat Hartford by 24. They beat Wisconsin, who is another battle-tested ball club that could have made a run. Wasn't able to do that. They beat Wisconsin by 13. Now they get Villanova here in the Sweet 16. But I think Baylor is battle-tested. I think they're more battle-tested because of their conference play. Big 12 was a very good conference this year. Not as good, obviously, as the Big 10, who got 9 teams in. But Baylor is battle-tested in a Power 5 conference with good basketball teams. I think Baylor, because of that and the level of talent and the level of competition that they had to play during the course of the season, I think they take care of business there. I think Baylor, my prediction, your national champion. If you have something to say about it, if you have different thoughts, feel free to comment on my Facebook page. Feel free to comment somewhere else on this YouTube channel. But that's my thought. I think Baylor wins the national championship. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm going to be able to watch some of these games. I'm excited to watch some of these games, and I'm ready to watch some of these games. Now, quickly, some other sports news, because obviously the NCAA tournament's not the only game in town. Ndamukong Suh is finalizing a one-year, $9 million deal to return to Tampa Bay. It looks like Dan Snyder of the Washington football team is going to be the majority owner, or will be the majority owner for quite a long time in Washington, as he has an agreement to buy out his limited shareholders, giving him full equity of the franchise. The National Football League's Finance Committee has already signed off on a $450 million debt waiver Snyder requested to complete the deal. The league is expected to officially approve the transaction at the end of the month during the next scheduled owners' meetings. Fred Smith of FedEx, Robert Rothman of Black Diamond Capital, and Dwight Schar of NVR Inc. had been looking to sell their shares for several months. Combined, they own about 40.5% of the franchise. Dan Snyder's going to take that all up, and he's going to be the sole owner of the football team. Last year, Snyder drew widespread criticism after the Washington Post published a report detailing the toxic workplace culture dozens of female and minority employees had allegedly experienced. Snyder has also often been panned for meddling in football operations. Under his ownership since 1999, the club has yet to advance beyond the divisional round of the playoffs. And I think there are going to be a lot of people around the league, a lot of media members around the league that are probably going to say things are not going to get any better in Washington, but their saving grace is Ron Rivera at head coach. That's their saving grace, and hopefully Washington can make some moves and improve. And I think with Ron Rivera as head coach, he can definitely change the culture there. And then one other story that we're going to talk about before we go off the air tonight, and it's quite disappointing. It is a quite disappointing. And it has to deal with Deshaun Watson. The NFL has already launched an investigation into the allegations of sexual misconduct. There are 16. Deshaun Watson is facing 16 separate lawsuits of sexual misconduct. And Deshaun Watson's attorney on Monday said that the lawyer representing 14 women who have filed lawsuits against the Houston Texans quarterback is refusing to reveal their identities. They're all massage therapists, so draw your own conclusions there. They are suing Watson for sexual misconduct, with many saying that he committed sexual assault. All 14 women are represented by attorney Tony Busby. They said that Rusty Harton, who's Deshaun Watson's lawyer, said in a statement given to TMZ, said opposing counsel has orchestrated a circus-like atmosphere by using social media to publicize 14 Jane Doe lawsuits during the past 7 days in a manner calculated to inflame the public and malign Deshaun Watson's otherwise sterling reputation. Busby filed the first lawsuit on March the 16th. He submitted another 13 cases before Harden made his statement. 2 more appeared online following Harden's comments to bring the total to 16 as of yesterday afternoon. After the first lawsuit was filed, Watson denied the allegation and said he has always treated women with the utmost respect. In January of this year, a woman attempted to blackmail Deshaun by demanding $30,000 in exchange for her indefinite silence about what she stated was a consensual encounter. Harden added that such evidence calls into question the legitimacy of the other cases as well. Harden went on to say, we have received numerous unsolicited comments in the past week from many licensed massage therapists who have worked with Deshaun in recent years. These women describe him as a gentleman and a model client who never engaged in inappropriate conduct. Indeed, before these salacious claims, everyone who associated with Deshaun described him as an outstanding, respectful, and compassionate man. Now, I don't know whether or not to believe anything until the facts come out. But when you're facing 14 different lawsuits or 16 different lawsuits, and according to a suit that was filed Monday night in the Harris County State District Court in Houston, Texas, they are similar to those in the earlier cases in which the women accused Watson of exposing himself, touching them with his penis, or kissing them against their will while he got a massage. The most recent lawsuit was filed by a woman who alleges Watson assaulted her in July 2020 in Beverly Hills, California. 6 other lawsuits were filed earlier Monday, while the others were filed last week. They have all sued separately, have not been identified in the lawsuits. They are represented by Houston lawyer Tony Busby, who's said he planned to submit evidence from several of the women to investigators. Authorities have declined to comment on the allegations, and the NFL has said it's investigating the allegations against Watson. All the while, Watson wants to be traded out of Houston, and who's going to want to pick up that PR nightmare? Whether or not Deshaun Watson is innocent is another story. It has now created a PR disaster for not only him, but the Houston Texans franchise. It's a stain and it's an embarrassment on Deshaun Watson now and that Houston franchise. Wow. Okay. So before we end tonight, got some news here. We are going to be moving our setup here to another studio that is currently being worked on. Hopefully, we could get in there fairly soon. Kind of excited for that. Going to have a little bit more room, and we're going to christen that studio with a Cohiba cigar. Hopefully, we could get in there sometime very, very soon. But if not, we'll just keep doing it from these digs until we can get in there. So it's going to be interesting and exciting, and I can't wait to make that happen. So that's going to be it for tonight. The Deshaun Watson news, the other NFL news involving Dan Snyder, plus Sweet 16. That was everything that was on tap here for tonight. I am very happy you were able to join me tonight. If you weren't able to watch this live, obviously you're watching the replay. So all the while, we are happy that you are able to watch the replay of this episode. And as always, grab your favorite cigar, grab your favorite beverage, sit back, relax, enjoy the program, enjoy the conversation, and join in on the conversation. We always love to interact with our fan base and interact with our peeps, and we want you to engage. And I'm always open to engaging in comments and things of that nature. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on another edition of Cigar and a Beverage. Take care now.